Okay. So standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. Leading coefficient is a. The linear coefficient is b, and the constant term is c. And the vertex is the coordinate, the point on the parabola where the graph changes direction. It stops going down and starts going up if it opens up, or it stops going up and starts going down if it is a upside down parabola. And the formula for the x coordinate of the vertex is negative b over 2a. To find the y coordinate, or k, first find the x, or h, and then plug that x value into the equation and solve. So in this equation up here, negative 2x squared plus 10x minus 8, what I like to do is write out my a, b, and c. So a is negative 2, b is 10, and c is negative 8, right? So the x coordinate of the vertex, h, is negative b, which is negative 10, divided by 2 times 8, which gives me 10/4, which reduces to 5/2. Now to find the y coordinate, you plug it in. Okay. So remember to do your exponents first. So 5/2 squared is 25/4. Then you multiply. So this is negative 50/4 plus this is 50 over 2, which is 25, minus 8. Then you do the math, okay? So negative 50 over 4 plus 25 over 4 is actually 25/4, because remember you have to find a common denominator between negative 50/4 and 25, which is 100/4. Minus 8, which gives me, if I find a common denominator, which is 32 over 4, which gives me negative 7/4. Okay. So my vertex is 5/2, negative 7/4. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to find is the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry, remember, is just x equals h. And we found h to be 5/2, so the axis of symmetry is x equals 5/2. Remember, the axis of symmetry is a vertical line along which you can fold the parabola and half of it will land on the other half. Okay. The next thing we were asked to find is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and it's given by 0, comma, the constant term. And the constant term is negative 8. So there we go. So that's the y-intercept. It crosses the y-axis at negative 8. So let me highlight what we found so far. So we found the y-intercept. We found the axis of symmetry. And we found the vertex. Okay. Now, which way it opens? So remember, if the leading coefficient is positive, it opens up. And if leading coefficient is negative, it opens down. So because the leading coefficient is negative 2, the parabola opens down. And the last thing we were asked to find is the X-intercepts. And remember, to find the X-intercept, we set the equation equal to 0. And we solve. So remember how to solve this. You first factor out a negative and any GCF, greatest common factor, and all of these terms are divisible by 2. So we can factor out a 2 and a negative, and we have to factor out a negative in order to make this part positive so we can factor. So when we factor out a 2, we get negative 2, we get x squared minus 5x plus 4. And when we factor x squared minus 5x plus 4, remember we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 4, but add to give us negative 5. And if you do your chart, you get negative 1 and negative 4. And when you set each one of these binomials that we found equal to 0, we get x equals 1 and x equals 4. So those are my X-intercepts. Okay. So that means the graph opens down. Its vertex is at 5 halves. What was it? Negative 7/4. Yeah. So the vertex is at negative 7/4. It crosses the y-axis at negative 8. It is symmetrical along the vertical line. X equals 5 halves. And opens down, and it crosses the x-axis at 1 and 4. And we got all of that information from the standard form. Okay. Any questions? Is everyone good with finding all of these things? All right. So let's talk about the vertex form. So the vertex form of a quadratic. So yesterday we talked about the standard form, which is this. And from this we got the vertex, which is HK. So another way you can write the same equation is what we call the vertex form. If you know the vertex, you can rewrite this equation as the leading coefficient A times x minus h squared plus k, right? Where hk is still the vertex. So remember, in the above problem, we found A to be negative 2, and we found the vertex to be 5 halves, negative 7/4. So if we plug it in, the vertex form is negative 2 times x minus 5 halves squared plus negative 7/4, which is minus. So that's the vertex form of this equation, all right? Now, if you're given a problem, if you're given a quadratic in vertex form, so say, for example, I gave you a quadratic like the vertex form is good because you could just look at this equation and without computing anything, you can tell me what the vertex is. And the vertex is 1, 2, okay? You can also say that since A is 3, it opens up, okay? Now, some things that you can't do without some algebra. You can't look at this equation and tell me what the Y-intercept is, and you can't tell me what the X-intercept is. So you're going to have to do some mathematics before you can find the Y and X-intercept. And remember, when we have the standard form of an equation, we could just look at the equation and know where it crosses the y-axis. It was what the constant term was. All right. So let me give you a couple examples. Okay, so for all three of these problems, I want you to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and which way it opens. Okay. So here's three equations. Find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and which way it opens, please. Okay, so can anyone tell me what the vertex is on the first one? What's my vertex? Somebody chime in. Mr. Jackson, what's my vertex?
I don't know.
Okay, so what is H here?
4/3.
Your screen not popping. Hold on.
What is H?
4/3.
No, I'm looking at this one right here. What is H? Not 4/3.
Oh, 2.
2, okay. And what is K?
Oh, -3.
So that's my vertex. Okay, what is my axis of symmetry? Remember, axis of symmetry is x equals the h, or the x coordinate. So the axis of symmetry would be x equals what?
Oh,
What's the h here? What is the x coordinate of the vertex? What is h?
This jump hard.
How is it hard? Tell me where I'm losing you. How about that?
I mean,
How it opens. I could find the vertex in the axis of symmetry all day, but
Yeah.
to open it.
So what is the axis of symmetry here?
Hold on, I was making me a grilled cheese. Let me do it.
What's my axis here? Well, if the vertex is 2, -3, then the axis of symmetry is x equals what? What is the x coordinate of the vertex, guys?
y'all not gonna help me, bro?
Guys, this is the vertex, right? Which one of these numbers? Which one of these numbers is the x coordinate? Which one of these numbers is the y coordinate?
3.
3 is what? The y or the x?
The
No.
The
Y.
Y.
The y.
3 is the Y.
And the 2 is the x. So the x coordinate of this vertex is 2. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 2.
2.
Now, which way does it open? Well, what is A here? What is my leading point? What is A here? What is the understood number when we don't have a number?
1.
1. Okay, is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, which means it opens up. Okay. That's all you have to do, guys. Tell me the vertex, axis of symmetry, and which way it opens. If this is hard, just wait till about 10 minutes from now. Then you're going to really wish that you were doing this.
Since I'm on something completely different, does this meeting retain to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what is my vertex here? What is H? Remember your standard form of this equation. It's x minus h squared plus k. So h is the number being added or subtracted on the inside, and k is the number being added on the outside. So in this equation right here, what is h? Hold on. Give me a second, guys. Huh? Yeah.
Is y'all gonna make the dumbest nigga keep answering questions, bro?
Scan questions on photo math and do that.
I'm in the car.
Bro.
Okay, what is h here?
Grilled cheese burning.
What is h?
Notice.
So remember, this is A, and H has to be subtracted. Oh, for the love of all things holy. Give me 1 second, guys.
Turn up.
I don't know why people are trying to FaceTime. So H is the number on the inside, K is the number on the outside. But remember, H has to be subtracted. So if it's being added, H has to be negative. So what is H here, guys? Somebody chime in, I'm waiting.
Oh,
What's the number on the inside of the parentheses?
1.
1. In order for h to be positive, it has to be subtracted. Is it being subtracted on the inside?
No.
No, it's being added. So if it's being added, that means that h is negative. So that means, what is h? It's not 1, but
-1.
-1. Good. What is k?
-3.
Okay, good. So the vertex is -1, -3. Now, axis of symmetry. What is the axis of symmetry? We went through this type of problem, this thing just a couple of seconds ago. It's x equals what? It's the
1.
not 1, but -1, because the x coordinate is -1. Now, what is my leading coefficient? What is a? What is a, guys? Well, what is a? Mr. Brooks, what is a here in this equation?
Mr. D, I'm in the car if you want to know the honest truth.
All right. So what is my leading coefficient? Can somebody give me the leading coefficient here, guys?
Oh, hey, Lakin.
What is my leading? Mr. Young, what is my leading coefficient? What is a?
Which problem? Let's start with them both.
Second one, R of t. What is the leading coefficient here?
Hold on, let me whip out my papers.
The leading coefficient is the number in front of the parentheses. What is the number in front of the parentheses? Well, can everyone see the screen?
3. It's 3.
No, the number in front of the parentheses.
In front, -2.
-2, right. So if the leading coefficient is -2, which way does it open? Up or
Left.
down?
Oh, down.
Down.
Down, thank you. All right, last one, okay? Last one. So we're working on B of t, okay? So what's my vertex?
Bro, she took my emoji. My emoji. She taking. I hate that shit.
What is my vertex? What's the x coordinate? What is h?
Your h is your 4/3, correct?
Right, but it's not positive, it's negative because it's being added. It only
Yes.
would be positive if the inside was being subtracted, but because it's being added, the h is negative. Now, what is my y coordinate? Which is k.
Your y coordinate would be 3.
No, the y coordinate is the number being added or subtracted on the outside.
2.
2, good. So what is my axis of symmetry?
It is going to be -4/3.
Good. Now, what's my leading coefficient?
The 3.
So which way does it open?
Up. I mean, right.
No, it's either up or down, not right or left. It's up or down, which way it opens. Okay.
I said up first.
Okay. Any questions on these? So this is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is just look at it and know what you're looking for. I can't make it any easier than that. Let's talk about finding the X and Y intercepts, okay? So let's look at the two forms. We got the standard form and we got the vertex form. Okay. To go from the vertex form to the standard form, you just have to FOIL. Okay. To go from the standard form to the vertex form, you got to find what HK is. So H being negative B over 2A, and K then plugging it in. All right. So let's take the first one, x minus 2 squared minus 3. Okay. Now, if I want to find the y coordinate.
Brian Chromebook went dead. He joined on his phone.
Okay, no problem. So in order to find the y-intercept, okay, there's two ways you can find the y-intercept. Okay, the first way is to convert to standard form. Which means you're going to square the binomial. Remember, first outside, inside, last. And then combine like terms. So now that you have it in standard form, remember your y-intercept is your c, or your constant term. And in this case, the constant term is 1. So the y-intercept is 1 or 0, 1. The other way to find the y-intercept is to plug 0 in for x. So set x equal to 0 and then solve for y. So in this case, it'll be 0 minus 2 squared minus 3. Remember, you do whatever's in the parentheses first. That's negative 2 squared minus 3, which is negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, minus 3 is 1. So whichever way you like doing it, it's fine by me. Okay. Now, let's take something like this. Okay. So let's go through the process. So the vertex is 3, negative 9. Remember, the x coordinate is positive because it's being subtracted on the inside. Axis of symmetry is x equals 3. And it opens up because the leading coefficient is positive. Okay. Now, to find the y-intercept, you said let x equals 0 to find the y-intercept. Okay. So the y-intercept is at 0, 0, okay, which is the origin. Okay. Now, let's talk about how to find the x-intercept of this equation. Okay, the x-intercept. So in order to find the x-intercept, you're going to have to know what we call the square root property. The square root property. So how do we solve an equation like this? X squared equals 9. How do we solve that? How do you think we would solve for x? We talked about a problem like this earlier, a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so what number squared gives me 9? Can anyone tell me?
3.
3. Is that the only number?
Yes.
What about -3? If I square -3, don't I get 9?
Well, I mean, wouldn't that equal -9? Because no, because it's square. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. So the square root property says that if you have something squared equals another number, you can square root both sides. Okay. And when you
Oh,
square,
they separate the solutions.
yeah. So when you square root 9, you get positive and negative. You have to say, okay, it's x is positive or -3. Okay, so you have two options to consider, and that is known as the square root property. Square root property says if you have something squared equaling a number, you can square root both sides to solve it. So let's say, for example, I have something like this. Okay. How do I solve that? Well, square root property says I can square root both sides, which the square root of x minus 7 squared, remember squaring and square root undoes one another. So I'm left with x minus 7. And the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. And you have to put positive or -4 because if you miss one, that's missing one of the answers. Now, how do we solve this? Well, we add 7 to both sides. So we get x equals 7 plus or minus 4. So x is equal to 7 plus 4, and x is equal to 7 minus 4. So that means x is equal to 11 and 3. So let's go back to my original equation to find the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, we set it equal to 0. So x minus 3 squared minus 9 equals 0. So now we solve. And when we solve this, we want to get the square part by itself. So we move everything that's not a part of this square part to the other side. Then we do the square root property. We take the square root of both sides. So remember, when you square root a square, they undo one another. That gives you just x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 9, which is 3. Then you solve by adding 3 to both sides. So the solutions are x equals 3 plus or minus 3. So that means x is equal to 3 plus 3, and x is equal to 3 minus 3. So that means x is equal to 6 and 0. So that means the graph crosses the x-axis at 6 and 0. So here's all the information. We found the vertex, because it's in vertex form. We found the axis of symmetry. We found which way it opens. We found the Y-intercept. And we now found the X-intercept. Right? Now, let's do another one. Okay. So let's go down the list. Vertex.
Okay, I need a piece of paper.
Vertex. What's my vertex here, guys? Well, what is H? What is K? Somebody. What is H? What is on the inside of the parentheses? I'm waiting.
Can you repeat that?
What is H? What is my vertex here? What is the x coordinate of the vertex?
3.
Well, not just 3,
Oh,
because
wait, -3.
and -3. What is K?
32.
Yeah. Axis of symmetry, what is it?
Hey, Orion, you can take this one.
Okay, what is the axis of symmetry? What's the x coordinate? Mr. Young, what is my axis of symmetry for this problem?
I am currently trying to solve another problem that you have gave me.
Okay, so just look at the screen. What is the x coordinate of my vertex?
-3.
Good. Okay, so for time's sake, let me finish up. My leading coefficient is -2, so it opens down. Okay. Now, to find the y-intercept, I let x equal 0 and solve. Or in this case, t, sorry. Okay, so it crosses the y-intercept at 14. So the y-intercept is 0, 14. Now, to find the x-intercept. Remember, to find the x-intercept, you set it equal to 0. And you get everything besides this on the opposite side. The first thing we're going to do is subtract 32. Then we're going to divide by -2, because remember, we're trying to get the t plus 3 squared by itself. Then we're going to use the square root property, since now we have something squared equals a number. So doing the square root of t plus 3 squared cancels out each other, so that just leaves me with t plus 3 equals the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. Then we subtract 3 from both sides and get -3 plus or minus 4. So my answer is -3 minus 4 and
Just correct.
-3 plus 4. So it crosses the x-axis at -7 and 1. Okay. Any questions? So I want y'all to practice this. You have a whole section on the vertex form, and you'll have problems like this. And when we meet tomorrow, we're going to be talking about how to go from the standard form to the vertex form. And we're going to be talking about the quadratic formula. All right? Any questions? Okay, if no questions, then I will see you guys.
No, sir.
Have a good day, guys. Enjoy
You
your
too.
pizza, Young.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.